New Africa Broadcasting Network.
And today we're going to be speaking about COVID-19 virus vaccine. I'm a family practice physician who is board certified in geriatrics, family medicine, and emergency medicine. And each day I receive many questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. First, I want to assure you that the vaccine is safe and effective. It has been tested and evaluated. The test results of the studies that have been performed have been reviewed by the National Academy of Sciences, by the National Institutes of Health, and by the Food and Drug Administration. Additionally, each of the manufacturers, Moderna and Pfizer, have had external review committees that have been reviewing the data and the testing that's been performed on the patients who have received the vaccine to determine if there's any significant side effects or complications that you and I should know about. After all this testing, the vaccines have been found to be safe and effective, and on December the 10th, the FDA met to review all the data and unanimously gave consent for emergency authorization usage, meaning that Pfizer could go forward with administering the vaccinations. The next day, distribution started. On December the 17th, Moderna also applied for and received emergency use authorization, and Moderna began to ship their vaccines. A total of 40 million vaccines have been shipped from the two manufacturers and have been distributed over the 50 states and U.S. territories. The vaccine at all times has been determined to be safe and effective, a nearly 95% effective rate, meaning out of all the people who receive the vaccine, out of every 100 who receives the vaccine, 95 of those patients will receive immunity from the vaccine, meaning that they will not develop the disease and that they will have an immune response, that is, their body will protect them from getting the SARS-CoV-2 infection. So that's the great news. What's happening now is that high-risk and vulnerable patients, frontline workers, EMS workers, and those essential workers who each day place themselves in harm's way to provide services to you and me. We're talking about hospital staff, nursing home patients, high-risk patients who have underlying medical conditions that put them at high risk for developing infection will receive the vaccinations first. Also, some of our national leaders will receive the vaccination as part of public safety, that is national safety. It's important that our leadership and a significant core of our leaders be vaccinated to prevent them from getting the disease, to ensure that we always have a fully functional federal and state government. The vaccines have been tested on a wide variety of patients, both Caucasians, white patients, African American patients, Latinos, American Indians, and other minority groups as well. Pfizer tested over 40,000 patients without any significant adverse reactions. I think Moderna tested 25,000 patients, plus additional tests have been performed in Europe and around the world. So a large selection of patients have been tested. The vaccine uses a new technology called mRNA technology. It's a technology that's been in development for over 10 years, and it's a little different than the vaccination technology of the past. In the past, when we gave you polio vaccine or mumps vaccine or chickenpox vaccine, we'd actually vaccinate you with a weakened strain or a small piece of the chickenpox or the mumps, the measles, the rubella, and then your body would develop an immune response to that small injected piece of virus. This vaccine is different in the sense that what it does is you are injected with a messenger that alerts the body to produce antibodies and a defense reaction against the SARS-CoV-2 virus, so that when the SARS-CoV-2 virus shows up and begins to infect you, you already have an immune response. That is, your body's cells have already produced the antibodies and the defense system to protect you from getting the infection. Let's talk a little bit about emergency use authorization. Emergency use authorization is a term you hear being used a lot, and what it means is that the FDA has, based upon the available information, has made a decision that for an emergency use approval, that the vaccine can be started to be administered to you and me. And as I mentioned, over 2 million Americans as of today have been injected, that have been vaccinated. So emergency use authorization simply means that with the usual protocol for the FDA is to have larger numbers of patients vaccinated over longer periods of time, but with emergency use authorization, a slightly smaller group of patients over a shorter period of time are monitored for vaccination reactions. The reason being is that the benefits of administering the vaccine to the American population exceeds the risk as we understand it. Again, the side effects of this vaccine have been very small and usually involves something simple like body aches, tiredness, fatigue, sore throat, scratchy throat, runny nose, mild cough, those type of side effects that last for 2 or 3 days and then go away. Side effects are usually worse after the second vaccine, and you'll recall that the vaccines, both by Moderna and Pfizer, require a 2 vaccination process. So we have 40 million vaccines being distributed right now. That's enough for 20 million people to be vaccinated. Again, you'll receive a Moderna or Pfizer vaccine, and then it's recommended that you repeat that in 3 weeks for the full vaccination. You must be revaccinated the second time by the same manufacturer that you received on your first dose. Now, the choice is yours whether to be vaccinated or not. I highly recommend that you choose vaccination. I believe that all of us must play an important role by choosing to be vaccinated so that we can move through this pandemic. Once 70% of the nation has either received a natural infection or has been vaccinated, then we will be able to move out of this pandemic and the infection rate will significantly be reduced. However, it's important to know that the choice is yours. There is no requirement to be vaccinated, although I, as a practicing physician in family medicine, geriatrics, emergency medicine, would strongly recommend that you be vaccinated at your first opportunity. Potential side effects we've talked about involves fever, chills, tiredness, headaches, body aches, mild cough, sore throat, runny nose, typical respiratory type symptoms, lasts for 2 or 3 days and then typically resolves. You can use ibuprofen, Tylenol, and get a little rest, and that's usually all that's needed. Also, I would point out that rarely there have been severe allergic reactions reported both in the studies as well as in the news recently, and what we know about that is that all patients that have serious food allergies and have in the past developed an anaphylactic, that is a severe response to any type of food, requiring them to carry around a treatment of Benadryl and an EpiPen or adrenaline, should be precautious when receiving the vaccination. It is possible to have an allergic reaction to the vaccine, and it appears that primarily occurs in patients that have serious food allergies. It is not common. The vaccine does not contain eggs. It does not contain preservatives, and it does not contain latex, just so you know. Next is immunity. Immunity develops usually in the weeks somewhere between 10 and 14 days after the vaccine has been administered, but you'll remember that you require 2 doses 3 weeks apart, 21 days apart, in order to receive full immunity. So that means that you'll get your first immunization, 21 days later you'll repeat it, you'll get your second immunization, and then 10 to 14 days after that you will be considered immune. Also remember that 95% of patients develop immunity from SARS-CoV-2, but that still means that 5 out of every 100 do not, even after receiving 2 doses of the vaccination. They do not. Length of immunity, we don't know. Right now it's unclear how long the immunity from vaccinations last. We know that it appears to last 4 to 6 months, but we don't know longer than that. We also don't know natural immunity and how long that lasts. It appears that it'll last 4 to 6 months, but there are reports of people developing SARS-CoV-2 requiring hospitalizations more than once within a 6-month period. And we also know some information that's come out of China that second infections do seem to occur. However, the truth is that the length of immunity from the vaccine is unknown. It may be that becoming vaccinated against SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 may be something that is required every year. Just like with influenza, we get a vaccination every year. It is possible that we may have to have a vaccination against SARS-CoV-2. We still just don't know. And in subsequent broadcasts, we will continue to keep you up to date week after week in terms of the pandemic, the vaccination, medical management of the medical conditions as we move forward. Next, I want to talk a little bit about Pfizer versus Moderna. Some of you may have a preference, but I would say as a practicing physician, there's essentially no difference. I believe that some government officials have been vaccinated by Pfizer vaccine, and others have been vaccinated by Moderna vaccines. In fact, I think Dr. Fauci just a couple days ago was vaccinated with the Moderna vaccine, while the vice president was vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. In conclusion today, I want to assure you that you should consider receiving the SARS-CoV vaccine, particularly if you're above the age of 50 and you have any medical conditions like heart disease, lung disease, cancer, kidney disease, liver disease, or obesity. You should strongly be encouraged, and I recommend that you receive this vaccine at your first convenience. At-risk patients for age, that is over 50 years of age, and or one of these underlying medical conditions are best served by receiving the vaccination as soon as possible. Consultation with your primary care physician at all times is recommended. While today I have discussed with you current information about the vaccination process, and you recall that last weekend we had a panel of experts from around the world came together to talk about the development and safety of the vaccine, and tonight we've taken some time to talk about the fact that vaccination has now started, that it's safe, it's effective. Serious reactions to the vaccine are rare and not common, and typically occur in people who have known serious food allergies. Again, it's been my pleasure to be with you and to answer your questions, and I look forward next week to rejoining you to continue discussing updates on the COVID-19 pandemic and to discuss current information about the vaccination process and the progress that we're making. This is Dr. Terrance Baker coming to you from the broadcasting studio of NABN TV.
NABN, New Africa Broadcasting Network.